wrong is already going wrong, so that doesn't make me nervous at all. So yeah, so I think that we are gonna lose half of my, a chunk of my slides. I hope that we can see some of the things that I want to show in some of these slides. Anyway, so in terms of software craftsmanship, what happened in 2008? So who knows? Why 2008 is an important year for us as a software craftsmanship community? Almost, close, but that was early 2009. So November 2008 is when the gathering for software craftsmanship happened in Chicago. And that's what I want to do. So when the guys asked me to come here and give a talk, I think that there have been so many conversations in our community right now. And I think that it's important for us to go back and see everything that we have achieved. Right, so there's been a lot of focus on in topics that are quite controversial, and I think that it's time. I think that is all good stuff, but it's time to remember why we are here together. Right, so what brings us together, what unites us. Right, so that's what I want to do. So I want to go back in history. How many of you, just for my own, to understand that, how many of you are part of a software craftsmanship community? Most of you. Okay. So how many of you have been in the industry for more than 5 years? Excellent. Okay. More than 10 years. Whoa, that is a very mature crowd. That's great. Okay. So that's very cool. That's very cool. So, okay, so before we talk about software craftsmanship as a movement, I think that it's important to go back and, how does this work? Down. Right, so it's important to go back to, it's gonna, I cannot say that, I'm being recorded, right? So, sorry, yeah, they will need to beep quite a few times today. So we need to go back to 1999 and 2001, because our movement actually has its roots in some kind of written books. So in 1999, this amazing book called The Pragmatic Programmer by Andy Hunt and Dave Thomas was published. And it was the first time that people start making an analogy or using the craft as a metaphor. In 2001, Peter McBreen wrote this also very good book with the foreword by Dave Thomas that wrote this book, where they went beyond and tried to explain why software craftsmanship is a better metaphor in their terms, which today, I even believe that it's not a metaphor, it's a real description of what it is, but I'll leave that for another time. So the context that we were in the 90s, because that is 2001. So in the late 90s, I don't know about how the situation was in Spain, but so can I say Spain again? Sorry, I'll stop with this. Right, okay. So, but at least in Brazil and in other countries, we had the concept of software factories. So they were trying to create a standard way of producing software in line and stuff. So craftsmanship was also a reaction to that. And funny enough, Agile was also a reaction to that. But when Peter McBreen wrote this book, it was fascinating for me to go back to this book because I read that a long time. He was saying a few things. That he found that was a better metaphor. Again, remember the context of a software factory where we were really the bottom line. So because it was a better metaphor because that would put developers at the center. And another thing that was very interesting, he says that craftsmanship, the reason that he likes craftsmanship is because it's more personal. It focuses on the individual, which is very, very cool. I think that is quite aligned to where we are as a movement. Also, it says that it should promote better collaboration between developer and customers. And developers should sign their work. Not because it's a piece of art, because it would be very difficult to look at our code and think that it's art. But I think that what he meant by it is we should be responsible for the things that we do, right? So this is what I produced, and I stand behind it. And that's the, I think that's, and that is also, if you think about craftsmanship later on, it's also, this is at our core, is the whole professionalism things. And the customer collaboration, which is quite close to what Agile promotes. So, and then craftsmen are not hired hands. They are, and managing them should be a privilege. That's what he says, not my words, although I agree. So it should be. So, and another thing is that becoming a craftsman or a craftsperson, so I'm using his words, requires a lot of dedication, which is also, I think, that very interesting if you take into consideration the context that we were in back then. So it's refreshing to go back and think what some people were already thinking. We, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you see, because I see pros and cons in almost everything in life, that book was written in 2001. And in 2001 is exactly the same year that we had the Agile Gathering in Snowmobile in US, where Uncle Bob and 16 other people got together to discuss, Bom dia, how was your night? Yeah, tough night? Right, so Uncle Bob called these people in 2001 to go to a ski resort in Utah, and they were trying to find better ways to develop software. And those were people like Uncle Bob himself, of course, but then there was Andy Hunt, then Dave Thomas, the guys that wrote Pragmatic Programmer, Jeff Sutherland, Ken Schwaber from Scrum, Kent Beck, Ron Jeffries, Ward Cunningham, Martin Fowler, Brian Merrick. There were quite a few of these interesting people. And each one of them, they were promoting a slightly different methodology or a different way of building software. So some of them were representing extreme programming, some of them were representing Scrum, FDM, Crystal, feature-driven development, what is adaptive we had as well. So there were loads of different ways. So all of those are methodologies that at their core, including XP and Scrum, they are quite, one is focused more on the process, the other one is more focused on the technical side, but at their core, they are very similar. And what they have in common is shortening the feedback loop. Some of them short that in the product side, some of them short on the code or the development side, but they are all shortening the feedback loop. And that shortening the feedback loop, you get more information more often, you have more opportunities to inspect and adapt. And that's what gives agility. So all those methodologies, they were put under the umbrella called Agile. So when people say we do Agile or we are trying to be Agile, it's fine, but it's not a single thing. There are a lot of, so the principle is short feedback loop, inspect and adapt. So what happened, this was a phenomenal thing, because this took our industry in a storm, right? So everyone liked it and everyone wanted it. Unfortunately for Peter McBreen, the book was published in the same year, before the whole Agile, and no one read that book, right? So everyone focused on these sides. So, and what happened over the years, it's a shame that I cannot see but it's 2003 and 2007. So after a few years of Agile, loads of companies adopted this Agile thing. So, oh, that sounds a great idea. Let's try to adopt all these methodologies. And I believe that most of us know what happened in certain places, not in all, but in quite a lot of places, where they focused a lot on the tools, on the methodologies, which actually goes against what was in Manifesto. Of course, you cannot see that because we have a problem with the projector and my computer. They don't want to talk to each other. So that individual and interactions over process and tools. So that was in the Agile Manifesto, but Agile over the years became, we need to adopt Scrum, as if those things were a goal. So all these methodologies, including extreme programming, including test-driven development, they are a means to an end. But apparently they became a goal. So our goal of our department is to adopt Scrum, which is a shame. So then what happened is, as this behavior perpetuated in companies, we had what we call an Agile Hangover. So after a few years, mainly in countries where they adopt Agile very early, like in 2002 or something like that, after a few years, they had Agile projects that they were, surprise, surprise, not working as they expected. They still had a lot of bugs and long cycles to production, difficult to maintain the code, the developers were unhappy, a lot of technical debt. It's like, what the hell is this Agile anyway then? So what are we doing? So the only thing that they were doing is like, well, before we had to wait 6 months or 1 year to see the pile of shit, now I can see the pile of shit growing every 2 weeks. That's the only difference, right? But at least we can see that growing a bit. So that is fine. And a lot of those people, we had also an invasion of, I'm always making friends in conference, right? So, and then we have an invasion of people coming to our industry under the different names, like, so how can I say, like, I'm trying to be polite, like, I'm really trying to be British, but it's difficult. So then, for example, there was a lot of change agents and agile coaches and scrum masters and product owners and all those things that are very cool. There are things that needs to be done, but there were a lot of people coming from outside our industry, which is fine, but then try to advise companies how to organize their software teams and how to build software. And that clearly didn't work very well. So, and they also like to talk about the Toyota and how the Toyota was great. They changed the whole process and the production line, they pulled the cord, stop everything and blah, blah. But Toyota did far more than that. They changed the culture as well. I think the biggest change in Toyota was not just the production line, but is the whole mentality, is the whole cultural change that they had, which unfortunately for certain companies in their agile adoption, they could not do that 100% because most of those people could not connect to the developers themselves because they were asking to the developers to work in a different way, but developers saw them just as a different type of managers with fancy titles, right? So another thing that didn't change is that most companies today are a software company. Like them or not, they are a software company. They might happen to do banking, they might happen to sell stuff online, but at their core, they're still software companies. So the problem is that most of them didn't realize that yet. So they still think that software is a cost. But what the price that they are paying is that they are hostages of their own software. So all these people, the CEOs, CTOs, the product owners, they can have all this massive vision to change the whole world. So yeah, we're going to dominate the planet and with their ideas and market share and blah, blah. But they are going to go just as fast as we create or change software. So we dictate the pace of the business today. That's how it works. And while they don't realize that, they will still be producing pile of shit every 2 weeks. So, in 2008, there were some people very frustrated. So, wow, this agile thing was supposed to be great for developers. And it's been great, by the way, don't get me wrong. This is not me complaining about agile. It's me being frustrated that we had a massive chance to do that right. And we just chose one half. And we forgot the technical side. So that's what, for me, was happening. But the idea was great. So in 2008, there was a lot of dissatisfaction, mainly from developers, and including Uncle Bob that started the Agile. So he brought all those people together. So like, this is not exactly, the current state of Agile today is not exactly what we had in mind. And they were not a happy family either. It's not that 17 people sat down in one and had a few wines and ski, that after that meeting they were all happy and singing and dancing and stuff. No. So there was a division also in there. So that's why we have Craftmanship today. Craftmanship today, as we know it, not Peter McBreen's Craftmanship as a movement, is a reaction to a bad implementation of Agile, to the detour that the Agile community took. So the Craftmanship is a way to try to bring that back, to bring the developers to the center of software development as it was intended. That's what the Craftmanship is. So we were drawn to this, not because of some people don't like this manifesto. I don't really care. I think that what is important is to go beyond what is written. So this is the Software Craftsmanship Manifesto that builds on top of the Agile Manifesto. So the important thing is that we were drawn to this because we could relate to this. We wanted to do things better, and we want to change our industry. We wanted to be not only treated as a professional, but we wanted to have more say in what we are doing. So that's why the Software Craftsmanship brought so many developers together. And that's what I was saying at the beginning of the talk, that there are a lot of things that we have in common. There is a reason that we are in this room today, right? So, and one of the things is the passion for our craft. And that's what Craftsmanship helped to bring as well. So that was 2008. So just a bit of history. How much time do I have, by the way? Do I need to finish at 5 to 11? Is that? Okay. So I need to start rushing then. Just a bit of history. So in 2009 and 10, I'll focus more in Europe because I think that our history is a little bit more interesting. In the US, funny enough, it started there, but craftsmanship is not as, how can I say, vibrant, it's probably a good word, as it is in Europe. It's very interesting, but I'll leave that for another story as well. So in 2009, there was the first Software Craftsmanship conference in London. So the manifest is from November 2008. And in 2010, we started the London Software Craftsmanship community that was the first in Europe. So, and what happened was, we spent around 2009 and 2011, well, we've been doing that until today, that's what I'm doing here, right? So we started traveling around Europe, city after city, conference after conference, community after community, say, hey, there is this cool idea, there is this spirit, let's do that properly this time. And I, not only myself, but quite a few of us, started going around and say, hey, we developers could do better. We could get together, we could change things if we want to. But now we should do that through the developer's perspective and not from someone else's perspective. So the interesting thing was I was going to certain conferences and I would talk about software craftsmanship and I would always end the talk saying, if someone in this room would like to start a community in your own city, come and talk to me. And we can help, you can share what we've done, and we'll give you all the support to organize your community. And a lot of people did. A lot of people were excited about that, and they started creating their communities all over Europe, which was very, very exciting. So, today's not my day, right? Right. So a few things happened as well. So in 2009 and 11, so this period was very important for us. So we had the first code retreat in Europe. How many of you know what a code retreat is? Most of you. How many of you participated in a code retreat? Most of you, awesome. So code retreat, for those of you who don't know, is a full day where developers work together on the same problem. They keep rotating pairs. They work together on the same problem for 45 minutes, have a retrospective, delete the code, start over, same problem in a different way, and they spend a whole day sharing ideas. Very intense day, so of deliberate practice. So then we had the first one with Corey Haynes coming from US to do it in Romania. And then we had the Israeli software craftsmanship community as well in LinkedIn that became quite big. And then in 2011, we had the Paris software craftsmanship community as well. So those were the initial proper craftsmanship communities in Europe. Another thing that happened in 2001, what was very important for us, for our movement, if you like, in 2011, in Germany, so Nicole and Andreas decided to create this gathering. They already had that for Agile. They had their Agile gatherings or Agile camp, I think they called. So they decided to create a thing in a beautiful countryside hotel in Germany, near Frankfurt. And they decided to invite some people from abroad to talk about software craftsmanship. I was there. There was Micah Martin from Chicago, Adi Oshinei, and a few other people. And plus a lot of local German people from different parts of the country, right? So, and in that gathering, we discussed, like, what is this craftsmanship thing? What are we doing in the communities? Uri Lavi from Israel was there as well. So, and the guys, they loved it. They absolutely loved it. The Germans went crazy with craftsmanship. And in that year, in 2011, we drew a map of Germany and say, like, who would like to start a community? And people from 10 different locations in Germany said, we want to start. So there was an explosion of communities in Germany in that year. There was a thing that, for me, is one of the most fascinating things in history. is the global day of code retreat in our history. Let's put it this way. So yeah, in our history, right? So let's not go that far. So, but I don't know a single industry that has done this. So, and even if they did, well, kudos for them, because this was amazing. So we took like one day where 50 cities across the entire world with more than 1,000 developers, or around 1,000 developers, decided to do a code retreat on the same day. How many of you participate on a global day of code retreat? A few of you. So a half of you. So, and this was like, if you think about the power of this, because we had people all over the world, developers all over the world, completely different backgrounds, completely different colors, everything different, but focused on the same day around the world, doing exactly the same thing and sharing their passion. So we had Corey Haynes flying from US to Australia to facilitate the first code retreat of the day. And as the Earth was spinning and the sun was changing, well, the Earth was spinning around the sun, so he flew back through the Pacific to Hawaii to facilitate the last code retreat of the day. And as the code retreats were finishing from one country to another, they were speaking to the other countries and handing it over to them. So we had video calls. So it was, for me, was one of the most, I don't know, fascinating things that I've seen. And this is what, again, this was bringing us together across the world, right? That's what we were doing. That's what we were looking for, right? So in 2013, we had software craftsmanship communities in 15 countries and more than 30 communities in 15 countries. That's more Europe. We had quite a few in the US as well. So if you think about that, just in like 4 years, the spread of craftsmanship, the amount of developers that could identify themselves with a wider sentiment is phenomenal, right? So, and then, if you look at, those are data from meetup.com. So, of course, we know that meetup.com doesn't have all the developers in the world. So, I'll show a few statistics. So, most of the developers in our industry don't go to communities, right? So, they are not in user groups, they are not collaborating the same way we do. Also, not all the user groups, there is already a small subset of the whole, not all of them are on meetup.com, which also is a smaller subset. But it's the only reliable data that I could use, right? So it is a sample. So on meetup.com, groups that identify themselves with software craftsmanship or put the software craftsmanship tag, in 2013, we had 79 groups, we had 15,000 members in 49 cities across 26 countries, which is also, like if you think about in 4 years, the spread of craftsmanship was quite fascinating. We also had, at this time, in 2013, we had more than 11,000 developers that signed the Software Craftsmanship Manifesto, and that is their distribution. So fascinating to see that although they didn't have their communities, but developers across the world from all the 6 continents united around our craft, or the sentiment, right? So at that point in 2014, we didn't have like a modern description of what our movement meant. We had Peter McBreen's book, but not something that were more related to what happened since Agile, since 2008. And that's what I decided to do. So I decided to write a book that would bring closer the message to what we meant by software craftsmanship after everything that happened. So that was another thing that was interesting, at least for me. So I heard it's quite a good book, by the way. So, but if you look at our evolution, first, I mean, from 2009 to 2016, the software craftsmanship movement, most of the communities that I am aware of, and I've been part of, we focused, in the technical side, we focused on maybe a few more hours, but like those are the strongest. Extreme programming, that's what we focused on. So all the TDD, pair programming, right, CI, all this kind of good stuff. Cross-pollination. Cross-pollination is a very important one because we don't think too much about it. And the reason that I'm focusing is like there's a lot of talk about weed not being inclusive and things like that. So that's what I'm trying to show to you, what happened since we started. So cross-pollination was a big thing for us because what we wanted is to bring people from all different areas of software development. So there was a commitment mainly for the European craftsmanship communities to be language agnostic. Because we didn't want to say, this is just a Java or this is this framework. No, we want all the developers to be able to join the craftsmanship community and share their experiences. So we also did that across countries as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that. So deliberate practice, we focus a lot in all the meetups. We were writing code and working together and stuff and sharing. And we also focus more on the micro design, right? So on the kind of the TDD, clean code, object calisthenics, and baby steps. So this has been most our focus. What I call like more a foundation work, right? So trying to spread, at least inside our community, the basic foundation of what we consider good software, so that we can do some things more interesting. So that's a bit of history. So where are we now? So software craftsmanship awareness and adoption by developers and companies is growing fast. So how do I know that? Well, of course that I don't have precise data, because that would be almost impossible. I have just what I see. So what I see is more and more companies asking for these kind of things, asking for extreme programming, ask for software craftsmanship. They are, even like there are some companies saying software craftsmanship coaching. I'm not entirely sure what that means, because how can you be a coach on a mindset? What they normally want when they say craftsmanship coach, what they are talking about is extreme programming coaching, right? But again, call whatever they want to do the good thing. Right? So even if it's not the appropriate name, it's a good thing. So, but that's what I see. So more and more companies, mainly the ones that adopted Agile in the past, are now becoming more aware that they need to bring also technical excellence, and that's why we see software craftsmanship going into large organizations, including banks and financial institutions in London, because that's who we work with. And when you see these kind of companies investing on these kind of things, you know that we are in a good path to be, well, mainstream, if you like. So today, spoil. Right, so the London Software Craftsmanship community today has 4,111 members and organized more than 440 events. So that is more than one, I don't even remember, but like it was a big number per year of events. So there were years where we had like code and coffees and code drink. So we had like 8 events per month, because we had code and coffee, we had code and beer happening the same week, morning and evening, plus all the hands-on sessions. And so there were loads and loads and loads of events that were promoted by this community. But not only this community, this is valid for everyone. I'm just giving you the concrete data that I have, but this is true for a lot of other communities. And this shows how many people, including myself, that were helped, they were welcomed, and they were helped by software craftsmanship communities. The things that I know today, the career that I'm having today, is due to everything that I learned through the communities. First with the Java community, and later with the craftsmanship community. And this has been true for a lot of people all over the world. So from 2017, so we had about 15,000 members. So now, 4 years later, we are on 131,000 members with 288 meetups, 181 cities, and 48 countries, which means that we had like more than an 800% growth in the past 4 years. So this shows a little bit better. So in terms of numbers, in 2013 we were here. 4 years later, that's where we are, right? So this is in terms of number of meetups. That's where we are. The cities and countries. So we more than doubled in almost everything except for countries, which we don't have a lot of in the world. Of course, it will be a bit like that. So it shows how many developers around the world are relating to this, or how many developers in the world have a lot of things in common. So another thing that was interesting, like today, where we are today, is we created in Europe a few meetup points. So those are the Socrates conferences. If you haven't been to one, go to one. So we have now in quite a few countries, and they are a full open space conference, starting from Thursday afternoon, going all the way to Sunday. Normally they are in a retreat, away from the big cities. Not all of them, but most of them. And it's an immersion with like-minded people sharing ideas. And most of those, all the Socrates will have people from all different countries. That's what I was talking about, cross-pollination. So we want to have people from many different countries together multiple times a year so that we share and learn from each other. We also have 2 other conferences that we call sister conference. That is ITake in Romania and Code Freeze in Finland. That is really awesome. Another thing that happened from 2013 until now, I saw our technical focus becoming much wider. So when I go to the Software Craftsmanship meetups and Socrates conferences, we are not only talking about TDD and clean code anymore. The variety of topics increased massively, and that is because of also the diverse set of people that we have coming from all sorts of communities. And they are saying, look, we can bring the same spirit of software craftsmanship into many, many other disciplines as well. And all of those things, they belong and they are part of our craft. So software craftsmanship communities today helped tens of thousands of developers around the world. Tens of thousands, right? So I think that when we talk about an inclusive community, I'm yet to see a community that is as inclusive as ours, right? So today we have, in terms of the largest in the world, not that it matters, it's more like to explain where we are. London with more than 4,000. We have Germany. It's amazing the amount of communities we have in Germany today, and Berlin being the biggest with almost 3,000. The guys in Paris with 2,500, and Turkey as well. So Turkey is becoming, craftsmanship is becoming a massive thing in there. So 2,400. A thing that is not here that I forgot to add was there is also a big movement in Asia. So I was invited to go to Agile Vietnam, and there's going to be another big Asian tour. And they want more and more to bring craftsmanship. They started with Agile. We had Agile in India. When was it? Like last year or the year before? So a lot of in the Asian market, there is also, they are a bit behind of us, but they are already putting a lot of effort in the Agile community and now trying to bring craftsmanship along, which is pretty cool. So this is the distribution today in Germany. So Germany today is the country with more craftsmanship communities, at least in Europe. And this is, of course, Switzerland and Austria as well, but all the German-speaking communities. So I really believe that software craftsmanship is getting there, is becoming mainstream. This will bring our challenges, as it brought to Agile. Becoming mainstream means that we will be able to bring our passion, our craft, our way of thinking to more and more organizations. And that's a fantastic thing, but everything that becomes mainstream, we have that Chinese whisper thing that you start talking to the ear of it. So I start saying something to this person says, and at the end, this person understood a completely different thing. Those are challenges, like this happened to Agile. The thing that they discussed in 2001, that's not what Agile represents today. So this is a challenge that we need to find a way to avoid. However, this is all well and good, right? I spent like half an hour saying how great we are, right? How awesome we are. But when we are inside the bubble, we think that we are awesome. And we think that we are making a huge difference around the world. But we are still in a very, very tiny bubble, right? So it's a beautiful bubble, very well crafted, but still a very tiny bubble. So if you look at least what makes me happy is to know that we have more and more of these small bubbles, and they are traveling, but we are still a bubble. So why do I say that? Just to give you, oh, excellent, so it didn't cut. So this is to give an idea of the size of our bubble. Again, this is only Meetup. So this is the number of software development community members in Meetups that have software development as a tag. So we have like almost 9 million developers. Of course, this doesn't represent, again, the total sample. We are probably it's difficult to find. I really tried hard to find the number of developers we have in the world today, but it's very difficult. Some websites say 22 million, some websites say 40 million. It's very difficult. But if you have 8 million or 9 million in the meetups, I would say that is a quite high number because most of them are not here anyway. So this is the software development. And then I looked for Agile project management because you cannot have just Agile meetup. So that is 1.5 million. If you go all the way there, this amazing thing that we are doing, we are here, right? This is what we represent for the developers that are part of meetups, which they are already more passionate. So they are interested to go outside and collaborate and stuff. Even among this set that is small for the wider industry, we are tiny. So I will remove these from the equation because otherwise the next slide you won't see craftsmanship at all. It will be just a flat line, right? So I will remove that. So let's focus just on the things that are more related to what we do. So Agile project management, 1.5 million, right? But that's an interesting thing. That shows the discrepancy that I was talking about, like the two sides of Agile, that one was, the process side was adopted widely or the technical side was not, because we can look at extreme programming. So they are talking about Agile project management, but there's no mention of extreme programming. So there is something quite odd, right? Because that's the only really technical discipline in Agile software development, but they don't really care. So then, okay, but then you can put the practice, test-driven development. That goes up higher than XP, because other communities like Java, C#, Ruby, and stuff, they would add test-driven development to their tag, but they won't associate themselves to extreme programming, right? So, but we are still here. So let's look at meetups. Meetups, we have 3,030 Agile meetups around the world, where we have just 288, and extreme programming is here. Also, quite a small percentage compared to the Agile movement. If you see the distribution across cities and countries, you still have these. Of course, in the countries, you have just like less than 200. It's very difficult to know how many countries you have in the world because not everyone recognizes everyone, but let's put 200. Oh, wow. Didn't even think about that. But that's why it looks like more evenly spread because we don't have like a lot. So, but that shows also you the distribution. So we have a few challenges currently. Not only in London, but this is true for any other community. They are being victims of their own success. So what I mean by that is when something gets very popular, then people end up joining those things because they're popular, not because they understand what they are. As soon as employers and companies start saying you need to have TDD on your CV, or you need to have a GitHub account or stuff like that, those things will inevitably, people say, okay, if I don't have that, I don't even get to the interview, so I need to put those things in there, and I'm gonna subscribe to a few meetups so it ticks the box as well. So we have a big influx of people in our community that meetup.com says, oh, you are in this community, you might like this community and this community, this community, this community, and the software craftsmanship community. Oh, great, I'm gonna subscribe to them all, right? So those numbers that we have, they're not really, they don't mean that they are active people and they understand what you're doing. So, and we lost the intimacy with the size as well. So I would love to have that back, to be fair. So as soon as you have a big group that don't understand the same premise, the idea disperses a bit. And that's what I was saying about the Chinese whisper. So we need to find a way to reinvigorate our communities as well. Because what happens is once you are at the beginning of a community, all the members are very passionate about that thing. But then as it gets very, very popular, so you learned a lot through the community, but now the senior people, they take less from the community, and they get bored and they go somewhere else. And this happened to the Java community and every other community that I was part of, and that's also unfortunately true for the craftsmanship community. And we have a commitment now in London to sit down and try to address those things. So how can we make everyone engaged? How can we make sure if developers, again, difficult to find a hard statistic, but there is a lot of places saying that we are doubling the number of developers in our industry every 4 years, or every 5 years. So that means that we are in a constant state of immaturity, if you like, which means that we are always like, no, this is just a fact. This is not me. So if we have like every 5 years, we double the number of the size of people in our industry, which means that at this point, half of our industry has less than 5 years of experience, right? So because they are joining our industry right now. So this is what's happening. So we need to find a way. And this is not going to get better. So it's up to us to make sure that we need those people, by the way. The demands that we have for software development, every company here is hiring. Every company in the world is hiring developers right now, right? So, oh, by the way, we're hiring. Have I said that? So, that was a good way to push, right? So, but anyway, so it's up to us to make sure that we address this problem because we need them. Our industry needs more people. So the communities need to find a way to continue that foundation work. And make sure that the senior people stay, that they still get value of it as well. So I think that it's worth remembering before we start moving to where I would like to go, at least, well, I cannot go anywhere, I can go alone, but like, so I have just where I wish we went. So I would like to refresh our memory for the sake of the people that joined way before everything, all this history that I talked about, to remember what craftsmanship really means. So it's a mindset, right? So this is a more personal thing, right? So for me, craftsmanship is about a mindset. It's how I see my career. It's how I see how I want to behave. And it's our journey to mastery. It's always trying to achieve more, like because we want to. So this is what I'm saying, that it's a lot about dedication and this desire to do things well for its own sake, not because someone is asking us to do things well. It's because we want to, because that's what drives us, is to do things well and always better and better. So on the more professional side, if you like, because of the type of people we are, because we want to do things well, this will inevitably lead to this, that we will be trying to satisfy our clients, providing the best service we can. And also, I wanted to add pragmatism, even in the title of the book, because I believe that software craftsmanship without pragmatism is not software craftsmanship. So there's no, we can do software craftsmanship or be pragmatic. So that's not a thing. So you cannot do the other one without one. So anyway, so this is a big thing for me. And I think that we should remember this. If you want to be treated like a professional, start behaving like one. I see in a lot of developers a sense of entitlement, right? It's like, my company needs to do this for me because my company is not providing me an environment to learn. My company is not buying me my book. It's not paying the conference. It's not doing this. And my manager doesn't do that. And my colleagues don't do that. Well, fuck that. Oh, beep. So I think that we ourselves as individuals, we pay a lot of professionals for their services. From our hairdresser, from our dentist, from I don't know, builder doing some work in our house, a lot of other professions, doctors, private doctors, whatever. So we buy their services when we have a need. So imagine that we went for these professionals and we say, look, I have this problem, I would like to pay you for your service so you fix my problem, whatever that might be. And imagine that these professionals come to us and say, I'm not sure if I can do that, but would you buy me a book? Would you send me to a conference? Would you give me some training? And let's say that you are really messed up and you are a very, very kind person. Of course, Mr. Professional, I'm going to pay for all your education. And you do that, and the same professionals come back with the learning that you paid for, and they come back and still charge you for the service that they provide to you. How does it feel? Would you do that? Because if we wouldn't do that, why do we do that ourselves? Why do we go to companies and say that it's their job to provide us things so that we gain the knowledge, and at the end of the month, we still charge for our service exactly the same amount? Why are we doing that? Are we really being professionals? Of course, I'm saying that there's loads of companies, and I know quite a few of you for quite a few years now. And I know that a lot of your companies, they have a lot of things that they do for their people. right? Most modern companies understand that. But is their job? Is their obligation to do? I think that it's not. If they do that, awesome. Treasure those companies, stay with those companies. But it's not their job, right? So, but you can say, yeah, but we don't have time to do things outside working hour. And neither has your doctor, and neither has your dentist, neither has your hairdresser, neither has your builder. But you still want them to be good when you pay them. It's not anyone's problem if you don't have your time. We all have 24 hours a day. I have a kid, I have a wife, and everything else. We decide how to distribute that time, but we all have the same amount of time. I fluctuate. So people say, oh, but then you just focus on your career. Well, it's not exactly, not as simple. There are times that I dedicate a lot to my career, and times that I take a break and say, you know what, 9 to 5, and I'm gonna just stay with my kids, and certain nights on the week, I will play Netflix, and I'll be like a zombie for 6 hours. With just really, right? And that's okay. That's okay. Our life goes through waves. Our personal life changes. And sometimes you need to put more focus in one area than in another. But don't blame anyone, right? So I think that another thing is software craftsmanship is all about sharing knowledge and preparing the next generation. That's what I was saying, that like there is a lot of people joining our 10 minutes. Yeah, I'll finish in half an hour. That should be fine. So so there is a lot of people coming. As I said, most of us, when you raised your hands at the beginning, when I was asking, most of you have been in the industry for more than 10 years. Most of you are part of craftsmanship communities, which means that all of you benefited from each other. All of you learned things with each other throughout your career. And we need to do the same for the people joining our industry. Because that's the only way that we can make sure, with the accelerated growth that we have in our industry, that we are going to grow to a good place. So let's not forget this. Practices are a means to an end. TDD is not a goal. Scrum is not a goal. Continuous integration is not a goal. None of these are goals, right? We should not be attached to our practices. We should be attached to the value that they bring. If I want to provide value to the business, let's assume that the business wants to go faster or to try ideas very quickly. We want to deploy our systems to production more often. So if that is the idea, to provide value to our business, being fast and deploying fast all the new ideas, that's the value. How do I achieve that? If I need to deploy multiple times a day over an extended period of time, what do I need to do? What are the practices that I should have? Oh, maybe we should automate things. Oh, what should we automate? Oh, we should automate this and that. So we should remove manual steps. So we should trust that our system is always in a good state, that it works. So those are the values. Those are the things that we want. If we do TDD or not is irrelevant. So, but if we want to achieve that, then what we need to ask ourselves is, what are the practices that we're going to use to achieve that? Because I don't have a problem when people say, I don't want to use this practice. As long as you can answer what you do instead, that you give the same value. And I don't want, in 20 years, to be doing the same things. And this leads me to the point that software craftsmanship is not extreme programming, right? So today, the identity of software craftsmanship is intertwined with the identity of extreme programming. And this needs to be separate. I absolutely love extreme programming. If you ask me, among all the agile methodologies, which one is your favorite, which one is your go-to, I would not even blink to say extreme programming. Today, I cannot imagine myself coding in a way that, in a different way. So I love my flow of test code refactor, test code refactor. So I love that. But do I want to be doing that in 5 years' time, in 20 years' time? No, because as soon as I find something better, I will replace them. So that's what is important. We should help XP to evolve. Extreme programming was extreme 20 years ago. What is extreme today? Right? So that's why it's important to separate ourselves. We have the mindset of doing things well, which means that we need to constantly adapt and look for better ways of doing things. So either we help XP to evolve, bringing more modern practices to XP, being mob programming, being whatever that is now. So Or we find somewhere else, but we need to move on. But I love XP, and we should value XP for all the things that are good in our industry. So anyway, so we also need to remember, craftsmanship without pragmatism is not craftsmanship. But people say, but what if we don't have time and blah, blah, blah. So that doesn't mean that you sacrifice certain things. When say, like, time is a constraint, as many others. When say, like, we need to deliver this by this time, this is a constraint you have. So then you need to work around that constraint. What can be delivered by that time? What can we do? And then is this time deadline, is it someone that is just, I would do it from a different point, but like, so is this a deadline that someone promised to someone else, and then we have this random deadline, or is a proper market deadline? We have, I don't know, Black Friday coming in. So if we don't do certain things for Black Friday, it doesn't matter anymore. We can wait for another year because so that's what we need to understand. So use that as a constraint and then be pragmatic to find the best solution according to a real constraint, not a random deadline that we have. And if that means that we are not going to use certain practices, or not going to use certain tools, or we are not going to automate certain things, that's okay. Because there's a real variable in the equation that we need to take into consideration. So, future. I want to see more innovations. So I want to see us moving beyond XP. I want to see us trying to find what are the better ways of doing things. Where do we go from here in terms of practice? What is extreme today? What can we actually push the bar and say, wow, this is crazy, really. But let's see where it goes. I would like us to also move away from the micro thing. We've been too focused for years in talking about the variables and the clean code and the name of my. We have far bigger problems to solve. Right, so we need to start moving to the architecture, to distributed systems and integrations and stuff. So we need to go beyond. So I think that we still have the problems with the architects, every hour architects. So if we don't want them to be there, if you want, because that's the problem that I'm trying to solve. We have architects in certain teams, and they are not as good, or they're not connected to the development team. However, when you remove them, the development team is not ready to make certain architectural decisions. We don't have this experience to do that. And we need to have, if you want to remove those people, we need to have to replace with knowledge, right? So we need to get better of promoting technical change, because I'm sick and tired of going in the past few years to the Craftmanship conferences and listening to people say, oh, but how do I bring TDD to my organization? How do I convince my manager to do this? How do I convince my colleague? Oh, for fuck's sake, I don't know, right? So the one thing that you can do, just be good at it. So we need to find better ways to explain how. The reason that we cannot bring technical change to organizations is because we are focused on the practice. We are going to your colleagues, on your managers, and say, hey, we need to do TDD. Why would we need to do TDD? Oh, we need to do this continuous integration. We need to automate this because we're focusing. We are doing exactly what the Agile people did, or some of them. We need to adopt Scrum. And that's exactly what we're doing. We need to bring this practice. Why? What is the business case for that? That's why we cannot convince anyone, because you go there with an opinion. We go there with a preference. I want to work in this way. Well, fuck you, right? So, beep. So we need to go there. So like, look, we have this problem. And I believe that we need to find a way to solve that. So what if we had this kind of environment? Wouldn't it be better for the whole everyone? Oh, by the way, how? So if we are here, would we all be here? And if we agree, because that's the principle that you need to agree to drive technical change, is first of all, make sure that everyone agrees with the problem. That's the baseline. If people don't even agree with the problem, there's no chance to change anything. Agree with the problem. Then say like, what are possible solutions? Where we would like to be? Then once we understand that, then comes the how. How would we get from this point to the other point? Are there technical practices? Are there ways of working that we could allow us to get there? And that's when you might start talking about practices. And I think that we are very bad at it. So I think that we should do more to share with proper, there's not a lot of, how can I say, formal books or materials. I would like to see more in-depth thinking from the craftsmanship community. That we get you practices or technology and stuff, and we go deeper and start publishing these books, right? So for the other software craftsmanship communities, not only the London one, but all the others, the challenge that we have, we need to find a way. I don't have answers for this, by the way. These are very, very difficult things to solve. So to provide a space for different skill levels and interests, right? I think that's what we need to do. I think that we should keep doing the foundation work with XP. So always new people, and XP is a great base. We should make sure that we nail this baseline, that everyone, we have a common understanding. We cannot just work with people that we cannot even agree how we name a variable or the size of our methods, right? So this needs to be common across, so then we can think about more important things. So these I have a massive doubt. I don't really like the separation in the community. I don't like, but I don't know. So we might need some more, I don't know. So we spread craftsmanship to other areas like mobile, front end, and automation. So there are many, many areas that they would benefit from the same mindset. So I would love to see, similar to what we have with academics, that we have like a lot of very interesting people working on ideas, and they collaborate across the world and they review their work. I think that we have such a massive potential, right? So as you could see, like in the graphs, like, we have people all over the world now that share our passion, share our craft. So what I would love to see is like we collaborating more. Like I had this crazy idea, but I know that there is some person in Germany or in France or in Spain that they would like to work together and then have those smaller groups producing more innovation. We should harness what we created, I think. This is, I'm running out of time, but like this is also very important. We need to stop complaining and moaning and start owning our career. So every company is hiring, right? So just speak to people here. You see like, who is hiring here? Look around. No, look around. Which company is hiring here? That's what I'm saying, right? So when you choose a company, you have a choice. So make sure that you don't work for one that you're going to hate. Do your research, talk to people, own your career, work for companies where IT is a strategic aspect of their business and not just a cost center. Or work for a technical company, but like work in a place where you can be valued and you will like the environment. And then stop moaning, right? So we need to be closer to business as well, right? This is what is missing for us, I think. We need to get closer to the business, not only from our clients' business, from our company's business. So if you work for a company, how much do you understand of the business model of that company? How much do you understand about the value that you bring yourself? Or why certain decisions are being made? Have you tried to get involved? Have you tried to ask? That's what I was saying. Like, for example, when... Okay, I have 3 minutes. No, I already passed 2. Okay, so, okay. Basically, what I say, like, if you are there with one salary, after 1 year, you say, I want a pay rise, right? People's like, what other, like here, we had a need. You could fulfill this need with your service and your experience, and we agreed a number. 1 year later, you want a pay rise. What are you providing more? Except inflation. Let's assume that inflation is catered for. What do you provide more now that justify this pay rise? So let's assume after 1 year, well, you can claim, but I know the business of the company, I know how to do things around. Fine, the first year is not a problem. The problem is the second year. The second year, your technical knowledge is 2 years old. Your knowledge of the company is the same as the previous year because it's the same company still. And now you want a pay rise. So what do you bring to the company that actually makes you deserve more money for the same service that you've been providing for 2 years ago? So that's what I'm talking about. Right? Make sure that you get involved and understand the value that you bring so then you can justify a few other things. So I would love to see more software craftsmanship companies, right? Companies that have developers. This is a very bad name because I could not find a better one. As you know, we are very bad at naming. So, but like I would love to see more companies with developers at the center, of having the developers making decisions and deciding things. I think this will also help our industry to move forward. We need to go back and stop with the separation. Between Agile and Craftsmanship, there was a division when Craftsmanship was born. Certain things were said and they shouldn't have been said. And then the two communities started criticizing each other. And now we are in an even worse state that we don't even talk to each other. Right? So, and that happened between Agile and Lean as well. You went to Agile conferences, there would be the Kanban guys criticizing Scrum, the Scrum guys criticizing Kanban, and that was a mess. So I believe that those three disciplines, Lean, Agile, and Craftsmanship, are essential for business excellence. If you want to do a full transformation, we need short feedback loop and opportunities to continuously learn at the low level, at the software delivery level, across departments, across teams working in a cohesive manner, and across the entire organization. Those are disciplines providing exactly the same thing, short feedback loop, constant learning, and adapting. And if we don't talk to each other, our clients, we will provide just 1/3 of the value that could be providing. So we should never forget this. I'm very sad with the most recent conversations, but what united us from day one, from since we started, is the spirit of community. The reason that we are here today, we are all different, all, right? But what brought us together all over the world are the vast majority of things that we have in common. And I think that we are losing track of it. We should focus, what my vision for us to move forward is to focus in everything that brings us together. We need to talk about many other things. Of course, they're important. We need to have awareness of many problems. One thing is to have awareness. One thing is to make a big thing. And I think that we have far more things in common. And what we are building across the world is amazing, right? And we should not forget that. So use this conference to talk to people, to find these commonalities, to find better places, how to learn, even better jobs or stuff. Speak to people. Make this a vibrant community. Thank you.